The year is 1895, and England is in the midst of a homosexual panic. Oscar Wilde, one of the greatest writers of the age, has just been released from prison. He'd been sentenced to 2 years hard labor for gross indecency with another man. But before we get to his incarceration, let's meet the man who caused it all, Lord Alfred Douglas, the second son of the Duke of Queensberry. People of the time would refer to those who slept with the same sex as invert, or, even worse, as a pervert. He tried everything to keep the two apart, including sending Bosie to Paris to get him out of Oscar's hair. But it didn't work. The lovers met in secret and eventually moved in together. So it goes without saying that a public declaration of love between two men would cause a scandal. His publisher dropped him, and his fans turned their backs on him. What we do know is that Oscar Wilde was imprisoned for gross indecency, a charge that was often used against homosexual men during the time. So while Wilde wouldn't have been arrested simply for being gay, his arrest probably would have been swift if he hadn't kept his private life so private.
But he did.
And that's why we remember him today as one of the greatest writers who ever lived. Eventually, they broke up and Oscar moved out. He hoped to put the whole ordeal behind him and get back to his life. But Bosie had other plans. He began circulating a new scandal, claiming that Oscar had been abusive towards him. To make matters worse, Bosie sent these claims to Queensberry, who then took it upon himself to expose Wilde to the entire country. He did this through the most discreet means possible, through a letter sent to every major newspaper in London. And in the letter, he made shocking accusations against the poet. He described how Wilde had corrupted his son and called him nothing but a bad influence. Queensberry also implied that Wilde was blackmailing his son for money, which might have been true considering that Oscar was, in fact, supporting Bosie. But the biggest bombshell came when Queensberry labeled Oscar a pervert, a term that was commonly used to describe homosexual men. It was a slur that stuck, and people soon forgot that Oscar Wilde was a genius writer and remembered him as a pervert. It was Bosie who kept them together, financially supporting them both so that Oscar could focus on writing. During this time, Oscar wrote his only novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, as well as several of his greatest poems, including the ballad of Reading Gaol. And that's exactly what happened when a copy of Bosie's poem was circulated around London. People started talking. The press picked it up, and soon enough, the entire country knew about the relationship between Oscar Wilde and Lord Alfred Douglas. The trial lasted for 3 days, and the whole of London was captivated by it. The verdict, however, was not in Oscar's favor, and he was ordered to pay £200 in damages, but he didn't have the money. So Queensberry's lawyer took the case to the High Court, and there Oscar was ordered to pay £400. But he still didn't have the money, so he was sent to prison for 2 years, hard labor. Alfred and Oscar met at a party in 1891, and they quickly became lovers. Now, this was the height of the aesthetic movement, and both men were obsessed with beauty. In fact, he sent him this rather homoerotic poem for his birthday. The first time Oscar read it, he laughed, but he soon realized that Bosie wasn't joking. Bosie had fallen head over heels in love with him. Wilde, with his signature green carnation, was the movement's most celebrated figure. Alfred, well, he was considered its living embodiment. The art world went wild for him. Artists did his portrait over and over again, and photographers snapped him in various states of undress for their cameras. Despite the fact that he never published a single work, Alfred was part of the elite group of intellectuals known as the Essayists, which also included Wilde, along with people like Walter Potter and John Ruskin. They called themselves the Decadents, and they reveled in their own luxurious lives while producing what many considered to be decadent art. And then there was Bosie, as Alfred was nicknamed, who reveled in being the subject of these portraits. He was also very much in love with Oscar. Now, while homosexuality was not illegal in England at the time, it was highly stigmatized. In fact, the very word homosexual did not exist yet. Naturally, Wilde's close friend, Lord Queensberry Basie's father, was horrified. In that time, Wilde's reputation was in tatters. His plays were taken off the stage. But the relationship was toxic, and Bosie was jealous and possessive of Oscar, which made Oscar's life miserable. And his honor, Oscar took Queen's to court for libel. So did the homosexual panic of the 1800s really happen? Well, not really. The panic came later. Thank you for watching.